Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, I happened to see a Mazda Tribute on the road today. It was one of the first cars I ever drove. I learned to drive in one, and it's become intertwined with some bad experiences in my life. So it was the summer of 2001, and my dad was driving an Oldsmobile, 1989 or 1990 Oldsmobile, and it finally died. And we went shopping for another car. And my dad, in his midlife crisis, bought his first SUV. It was a Mazda Tribute, 2001. It was green and seemed like the best thing in the world at the time. And not long after we brought the car home, 9/11 happened. And for some reason, that car became intertwined with the memory of 9/11. I eventually left home to go study my PhD, and I drove it around from Pittsburgh to Rochester and back. And I really despised the terrible gas mileage. And I remember thinking, when I have my own money, I'm going to buy a much smaller car so I won't have to worry about the gas. I recently learned that there's a concept of refueling anxiety, mostly affecting Gen Z folks. And they are so panicked about the price of gas that they'll literally put off getting gas to the point that they're running into trouble on the highway. I used to do that as well. I had a lot of anxiety with looking at the numbers on the pump, to the point that I would literally put a few gallons of gas in my car. I used to love to search rolls of coins. Well, I still do, but for a very different reason. I used to love to search rolls of coins. And one time I just didn't want to put gas in my car. So I took the coins I didn't want to keep and I used that to put gas in my car. It was literally 30 some cents worth of gas, just enough to do what I needed to do. Now, what's really funny is that I no longer have refueling anxiety, at least not in the same way that the Gen Z folks are. But I find that when I look at the gas meter and it's running low, I tend to be a lot more conservative with how I drive. I won't want to go too fast. I won't want to cut people off. And more generally, I just drive a whole lot less. I'm more willing to walk places. And sometimes I only put a quarter gallon into my car just to have that mindset. I don't know. I need to have that mindset all the time, but when there's a full tank of gas, it's a lot easier to justify these little conveniences, right? Like turning on the air conditioning as high as it will go, like going 45 miles an hour instead of 40. It's more easy to justify them when you have a full tank of gas, right? And I don't want to do that. I have a funny story, actually. One time I got pulled over for driving too slowly. And the officer goes, "Is there any reason why you're driving 45?" It was like in a 65 highway. I was like, I only got a quarter tank and it's got to last until payday. I'm sorry. If you know any other routes I could take. It wasn't true, but it's a reason that can vibe with a lot of people, right? If I told the officer I'm trying to save up in order to buy 1,000 pounds of bismuth, guess what he's going to think about that, right? And so he only gave me a warning, like, hey, you got to keep it above whatever. There's another road down there, something like that. And that was good. Another time, this was back when you had to go through a drive-through in order to get tested for COVID. I used to despise how I mean, I don't mind waiting for the test. I despise how I had to keep the car running because you had to move one car and then another. So I would often shut off my car and wait until there was a good 3 or 4 car gap. I mean, there was a lot of space. It's not like I was taking up the parking lot. I was doing that and somebody cut in front of me. And I went out to explain to them, I lost my job because of COVID. I really can't afford to keep my car running like this, and I need this COVID test in order to go to a job interview. Something to that effect. And he really vibed well with that, right? Imagine instead of saying that, I said, you know what, I want to save up a ton of money so that after social distancing is done with, I could go on an elaborate vacation. Guess what he's gonna think about that, right? I really despise it that we have to pretend to be poor in order to get what we want. It normalizes being poor, right? That's what it does, right? All right. But another thing I hate about SUVs, aside from the fact that my dad insisted on driving one, is that when I'm out on the road, a lot of times I'm about to make a left or a right turn, and I look in the distance, and this giant pickup truck or SUV or some other crazy vehicle blocks my view of traffic, right? Leave a comment if you've ever felt that way, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.